Bagley, Harding, Hug, 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 Johnson, Melton, Rowe. Mr. President.
Here. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and remarks by Councilmember Melton.
Well, if everybody could have a seat, we're already running an hour late, so I'm just going to wish everybody a very Merry Christmas, a Happy Hanukkah, and let you all know there's still time to donate gifts. CASA of Douglas County is still collecting toys. Of course, we have the Salvation Army and the kettle buckets all over. So if you could, just open your hearts and for Christmas, donate to a stranger, give a gift of love and maybe some of your treasure. Thank you very much.
An affidavit of publication is on file for the pre-council and city council meeting, and a current copy of the Open Meeting Act is posted in a white binder on the east wall of legislative chambers.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the Omaha City Council. We appreciate having you here today and your patience for our meeting starting a little bit late. We look forward to hearing your input on our many items today. I encourage you to turn your cell phones off or at least to vibrate.
Item 6, to consider a Class I liquor license for Zyka Indian Cuisine located at 14134 West Center Road.
Public hearing and vote on number 6 is today. We have the applicant by Zoom. We'll get you off mute here in a minute. Okay, try, oops. Give us a second here. We're working on getting you off mute. Okay, try that. All right, can you hear us?
Yes, I hear you.
Yes, okay, name and address, please.
My name is Rahimullah and my last name is Rahimi, address 14134 West Center Road.
Just here to answer questions, right?
Yeah.
Thank you. Any other proponents in the room? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing's closed. Public hearing's closed.
Second.
There's a motion to approve in a second. Roll call.
Bagley, Harding, Hug, Johnson, Melton, Rowe. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
Thank you.
Item 7, to consider a Class D liquor license for the Mercado located at 16250 Evans Plaza.
Public hearing and vote on number 7 is today. We also have the applicant by Zoom. I'll get Alex off mute here in a minute. All right, try that.
Hi, council members. My name is Alex Essay. Address is 7110 South Hampton Road, Lincoln, Nebraska, 68506.
Thank you. Any other proponents in the room for number 7? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing's closed.
Move the approval.
Motion or second to approve. Roll call.
Bagley, Harding, Hug, Johnson, Melton,
Yes.
Rowe. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 8, a resolution to approve the preliminary plat for Hanson's Country Club Hills Replat 4 located northeast of 72nd Street and Silver Valley Road. Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval.
Public hearing and vote on number 8 is today. Proponents, please. Pop it up all the way there and it'll catch you. Yeah. There you go.
Good afternoon. My name is Joe Foley, 14503 Grover Street here in Omaha. We're the engineers on the project, and I'm actually here with both the applicant and the realtor, so you may be hearing from them with some different aspects of the project. Pretty simply, we have a proposed replat of 12 existing residential lots, R2 zoning, and we're proposing to replat that into 13 residential lots, keeping the R2 zoning. One thing we are doing as part of that is one of those lots, existing lots, fronts 72nd Street. So we're eliminating that as part of this project to make it not accessed from 72nd Street. We are planning to do the public improvements with a street improvement district and a sewer improvement district, so we'll be back at some point before the council for that, assuming this goes forward. We are planning on establishing covenants and a neighborhood association, both to control the architectural guidelines for the buildings and also to maintain the stormwater basin that we're required to put in. And we've reviewed the conditions of the plat from staff and agree with all of them. We've been working through a number of them with the city. And I think with that, I'll answer any questions you might have.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other proponents today?
Good afternoon. Name is Mike Tushner. I am the member of REI Funding Group, the applicant, 3322 North 265th Court, Waterloo, Nebraska. Again, what we're doing is taking an existing piece of ground and that is currently platted for 12 lots, but per meetings we've had starting in September of last year, 2022, City Planning Board, would not allow the current platting to go forward because one of them is right onto 72nd Street, and also there was no outlot for stormwater retention. And so we have been working for the past year plus with them to have redesigns for grading and to end up with the plat that you see on the screen here. It's gone from 12 to 13, but they're all facing to Silver Valley Road and to meet what the City Planning Department was looking for. The other part that we've done has been working with the Neighborhood Association to get their input and provide input support and find out what they're looking for. They expressed very clearly that they would like to see that land developed instead of just a big empty field, but they wanted it to be larger lots, which is consistent with the Country Club Hills neighborhood that they are in. The prior person trying to develop was trying to carve it into 27 lots first, then it was 24 lots, and finally had 22, and was not getting any traction or any support, and justifiably. And so that's why we're trying to keep it as R2, larger lots, to be consistent with the neighborhood. Have worked with them, in fact, this past July, the final drawing that we have here, I brought a nice big engineering size print I delivered so they would have it available for their 4th of July neighborhood picnic party. And so trying to do all we can to inform the neighborhood and get their input. Any questions for me?
Thank you. I might in a minute, but appreciate that.
You bet. Thank you. We have one more proponent.
Thank you. Other proponents?
Before the Neighborhood Association speaks up.
Kevin Irish, 5416 South 169th Street, Omaha, Nebraska. The main purpose I'm up here for is some of the neighbors will probably be coming up wondering what will be built on these 13 lots. And we're in the negotiation process with a single builder, which we'd like to see. If not, we'll sell them to individuals. One thing that we really want to make known to the neighbors that there will be architectural control and covenants, so we will enforce what will be built on that, so it's not going to be willy-nilly. And I just want to bring that up because there might be some questions from the neighbors, and I wanted to calm the fears that there's, something will be built there that will be very much in line with what's already out there, and the architectural committee will be an odd number, and usually 3 is too many on something like that, so I'll be working closely with that. Thanks.
Thank you. Other proponents?
I'm Martin Trainer from 7009 Glendale Avenue. I am a member of the board of the Country Club Hills Neighborhood Association, in which this property area falls. And we do support this and feel good that it will create the right kind of development in that area. The only things that I would note that we will obviously be working with them to make sure the rights of the property owners on Country Club at Silver Valley, Starlight Drive at Glendale are preserved during the construction process. Also would respectfully ask that, if possible, the city have any construction that the city can control enter that property area through 72nd Street and Silver Valley Road versus Glendale and Starlight, because those streets are substandard and heavy construction traffic would be quite detrimental to the neighborhood. Thank you very much, and again, we do support this very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other proponents today? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed. I will just note, I don't know that I need to call anybody up, but I do want to thank the development team and also the neighborhood for working together on this. This new development team came and met with me probably about a year ago now, and we talked about the history of this site and how many times this had been before planning board and city council previously and was not acceptable to the neighborhood. And so when we talk about the 27 and 24 lot proposals before that were not consistent with the surrounding neighborhood, the neighbors, to their credit, never said they didn't want development here, just that they wanted the right development and they wanted to be part of the process. And I think this development team has done that. I think what we have here is the right product. And as Mr. Trainer noted, there are some big challenges with the unimproved roads there in the area. This is a bit of a unique application of our SID process that will allow the bottom part of those roads at least to be repaved with cement and storm sewer and gutters and curbs, essentially at the expense of the developer, because pretty much all the surrounding properties paying into that SID will be owned by the developer. So it's a unique application of that, but I think will be very beneficial in this respect, even though we'd like to do the entire roads. But I think your point's well taken on the construction process, not having Glendale or Starlight be accessed by construction efforts, and I'm sure the team can make that happen and the city can make that happen. So having said all those things, I appreciate where we've finally gotten with this property and you all for being here. And I would definitely support this preliminary plat today. There will be a final plat that comes back through in coming months, so we can make sure we stay in communication together. And I'm sure by the interactions you've had so far that that'll continue to happen. So thank you for working on this together. It's a motion and a second to approve. Roll call.
Bagley. Harding. Hug. Johnson. Melton. Rowe. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0. Item 9, a resolution to approve the preliminary plat for Bedford Heights located at 7060 Bedford Avenue. Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval.
Public hearing and vote on number 9 is today. Proponents, please.
Kyle Hazy, ENA Consulting Group, 10909 Mill Valley Road, representing the applicant. The piece of property that we are looking today is located at 7060 Bedford Street. To kind of familiarize everybody with the location of that property, 72nd Street is here on the west. This is Bedford Street, and Pinckney Street is to the north. You can see it at dead ends here at this location. It's a piece of property that's 5.6 acres in size. It is currently zoned R4. The surrounding properties to the east are also zoned R4, and then commercial zoning to the west. With this proposed development, we're looking to break it into 4 separate lots, 2 lots for residential use, and then 2 outlots for basin, and then open space up against the creek that goes along the west side as well. As I mentioned previously, Pinckney Street dead ends. City staff is requesting that we connect this public road to Pinckney Street to make a full connection. This helps benefit the local traffic and then traffic for emergency vehicles as well. On the 2 lots, we are looking to put 30 single-family detached rental units. It works out to be a density a little bit over 5 DU per acre, which falls into the low density category. We did have a meeting with the neighbors on August 31st at Camelot Community Center. The main concern that the neighbors had was the increased traffic. Again, as I mentioned, it's a low density product, a little bit 5 acres or 5 units per acre, and then we're helping the flow of traffic with that connecting road as well. As I mentioned, it'll be single family detached rental. Let's kind of zoom in here a little bit. It'd be a 3-story product, garage on the lower level, living space in the center, in the middle, and then the top floor would be bedrooms. These would be 3-bedroom units or a 2-bedroom with studio units for this product. This is all market rate rental, targeting UNMC staff. Is kind of the main focus that they're going to be looking at from a market standpoint. With that, I'll make myself available to any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Any other proponents that want to speak today? Seeing none, any opponents?
Margaret Shorn, 3318 North 69th Street. I'm a neighbor 300 feet from this proposed property. So they changed it from a R4 to an R6. And we have on here, it says it's 30 units in 5.54 acres. That is 6 units per acre and not 5, as he states. And it just is too much. We are a single dwelling, neighborhood. And you know what? All right, if you want to put 20 units in there, great, like what the 4Rs is, fabulous. And in fact, density population says that usually it should be 3 families to 1 acre. That would be 15 units there. It's too many units for that amount of space. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other opponents today?
Hi, my name is Laura Donnelly. I live at 3402 North 69th Street. My property probably is the most impacted with this development. Here on this line that I'm pointing to is my back lot line. My house comes all the way up here to 69th Street. This is all open space. There is nothing, there's no barrier. The way they have this set up, first off, 3 stories tall. The units measure 25 by 25 feet, 3 stories up. Their backyards measure 20 feet. Then this area right here is supposedly a retaining wall. This area, which is 80 feet from my back lot line to the retaining wall, is 80 feet. This is all open. There is nothing to prevent all of these people coming into this open area and marching right up to my backyard. I'm concerned with, when under construction, the debris blowing into my yard. Second, kids. My home was taken by the tornado in 1975. That whole area was hit pretty bad. I wouldn't even allow my own children to play in this area here, because even to this day, debris works its way up out of the ground. Every year, I go back there when I'm mowing, and I will collect stuff, shingles, whatever. Trying to keep kids out of my yard, and you have all of this open space, plus 30 units, and I don't know how many children, I'm concerned with. Another thing is I have chickens. And with all this open space, people who have their dogs, not everyone is going to put them on a leash and walk them. They just let them out. I have already lost a number of chickens due to neighbors' dogs. If this is approved, and I say if, probably will be, but I would really sincerely would love to have a wall set on the property line to keep dogs, kids, debris out of my land. I've lived there for 76 years. I was born on that land. I've had this view for years. I'm not real happy with this development, but I understand progress. I hope you take that into consideration when you make your decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other opponents today? Seeing none, public hearing is closed. Mr. Hazy, I might have you come back up just for a minute. This is also in my district. Some follow-up questions for you that we heard about today, and then I had another constituent send some in to me that I wanted to bring up. But first, when you say market rate, I'd be interested in knowing, do you have a range for us monetarily, what that means?
It's above 2,000 per unit.
Okay, per month, 2,000 per month per unit?
Yeah.
There's a unique design there, one that I find appealing, but I know everybody has a different opinion about those things. Can you describe your neighborhood engagement on it to this point?
We had our neighborhood meeting on August 31st at the Camelot Community Center. We had about a dozen people in attendance at that time. We took about an hour discussing the project as a whole. We've had a few other communications with the lady that came up second with her property line and the survey that happened out there.
Okay. As long as you went to that issue, do you want to address that a little bit in terms of that landscaping buffer or retaining wall to the east?
Yeah, so the this area along this area, it does have some slope across it. From the back, as she mentioned, it's about 80 feet from the back of the wall to her property line. It's 103 feet from the back of the home to that property line. There is, and this is pretty sloped. Right now we have 11 foot of grade change between her property line and the retaining wall, and then we have another 5 to 6 foot of retaining wall. So with that 11 foot of fall across that area, it's not very conducive to a lot of play and active area. We are looking for some screening along there as well, and then the 5 foot, 6 foot retaining wall provides that additional barrier as well. So these homes will be, I know she had some concerns about the height of those buildings. The difference in grade change is about 17 feet from those buildings to her property line in total difference. So there'll be, that third story will be the main aspect, but that will only be, I think we're limited to 34 feet in height for this building. So it won't be as intrusive as a full 3-story building would be.
Okay. So unlikely, in your opinion, that folks would loiter there or have their pets there or whatever, given the slope?
Yeah, it may make it a little bit more difficult for that use.
Sorry?
What was your question? I'm sorry.
Unlikely that folks would loiter there or take their pets there, given the slope?
Yeah,
in your opinion?
that'd be more difficult.
You mentioned screening. What would that possibly entail?
We have right now 5 to 6 trees on that back end. That'd be the standard 2 foot or 2-inch caliber trees.
Okay. And sometimes we see pretty pictures, but you are saying 6 large trees right there?
Yeah, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Okay.
On there.
All right. Another question for you before I go to maybe to planning or public works. Sometimes in developments, a frustration for surrounding neighborhoods is there's no contact person for rental units. Would there be a single point of contact for people that would have any issues or relationships with the property?
So these will all be professionally managed by a management company, so that you will not be, each unit, rental unit will not be responsible for their own maintenance. It'll be a professional maintenance group that maintains these. So all the lawns will be manicured and mowed by a professional maintenance company.
Okay. And the management company, do you know who that is at this point?
We have not got to that point yet.
Okay.
They'll start, once we start with the construction process, they'll start interviewing those management companies to see who they feel best, most comfortable with.
Okay. And you'll make that company readily known to the neighbors as a contact point with any issues?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Good. And then this may be for Public Works or maybe planning, but another constituent expressed possible concerns with Pinckney Street there to the north. Did we analyze traffic there and the slope there for snow removals? I don't know if Mr. Stuber, you can speak to that. Having microphone challenges, I think. Maybe you can borrow Mr. Curtis's microphone.
Okay, how's that?
Good.
Bob Stubbe, Public Works. Council President, can you repeat the question again, please?
I had a constituent wanting to know if we had analyzed Pinckney Street to the north there for increased traffic concerns and snow removal given the slope.
So in this particular case, when it comes to snow removal, obviously it falls within all the lane miles that we have responsibility for. So there's been no evaluation from the perspective of impact from that particular development to Pinckney Street. Because it's a residential development, typically it's not necessarily going to generate a significant amount of traffic that can't be handled by the existing street. Obviously, with the north-south connection that's being provided with the new development, that improves the amount of access that the existing properties have in the area. And obviously, the new development will also have access to multiple locations to get out of the area.
Okay. And my guess is most folks that would live there would probably exit to the south there, which is Bedford, and goes to 72nd Street. Another question that this person had was, would a traffic light be required at 72nd and Bedford as a result, or should there be one?
Most likely it wouldn't be required, but once the development is fully built out, I mean, that's something that we can have traffic engineering evaluate, make a determination if there is the warrants are met for an additional signal at that particular location.
Okay. So that's something you would evaluate as the development occurred?
Most likely we would evaluate after the development is fully built out.
Okay. And Mr. Haase, your timeline? I know we're just preliminary plat today, but when would this be constructed?
It would probably be next spring, so not 24 but 25. Maybe start grading this spring and summer, and start construction a late fall next spring of 25.
Okay, gotcha. All right, thank you. Those are the questions I wanted to make sure we got asked and clarified a little bit. And I know it's not always desirable for surrounding neighborhoods that are used to green space and open space there, but I do think it's a responsible plan, and I do think we often talk in this forum about the housing crunch we all have, and looks like you're trying to address that with this development as well. So I'd be supportive today. Mr. Hug, you're recognized.
Don't go away. There's a retaining wall that's being built on the east end of your property.
Correct.
Okay. Which way is the incline? Does the property fall to the east?
It falls to the west, so
It
property
falls-
owners to the east would not see the retaining wall, they would just see the slope. So if you're at the back of these units right here, if you looked east, you would be looking into the wall.
Okay, so the face of the wall would be facing west.
Correct.
Okay, and how tall do you envision that wall being?
5 to 6 feet.
5, 6 feet?
Mhm.
So about average privacy fence height?
Yep.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. I don't see any further lights. Is there a motion?
Move the approval.
It's a motion to approve in a second. Roll call.
Bagley. Harding. Hug. Johnson. Melton.
Yes.
Rowe. Mr. President.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion passed 7-0. Items 10 through 15 can be considered together for CIP Saddle Creek, located northwest of Saddle Creek Road and Pacific Street. Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval. Items 10 and 11, ordinances to rezone this property from R4 District and GI District to R7 District and CC District. Item 12, an ordinance to amend the boundaries of the MCC Overlay District to incorporate this property into that district. Item 13, an ordinance to approve a PUR Overlay District. Item 14, a resolution to approve the final plat. Item 15, a resolution to approve the subdivision agreement.
Public hearing and vote on items 10 through 15 are today. Proponents, please.
Yes, Mr. President, members of the council, Larry Jobin, 11440 West Center Road, appearing on behalf of the developer. With me today on behalf of the developers, Randy Chevrolet. Also with me today is Dave Johnson of Studio 951. They're the architects on this particular project. And then John McCarville of Olson, the consulting engineers on this particular project. I just wanted to go through the history of this project a little bit because I want to be brief and not take a lot of time, because this project has been vetted over numerous approvals before this council. So then I'm happy to answer any questions and respond to any opposition. But the preliminary plat was approved by this council on March 15th of 2022, so quite a while ago. At that hearing, the entire project was discussed and vetted with respect to, the number of units, the parking requirements, the elevations, the building heights, the setbacks. Everything was discussed at that preliminary plat hearing before this council. Then there was a redevelopment plan that was approved on March 29th of 2022, in which case the redevelopment plan also discussed all of the items that we just talked about, and also brought into the project and the discussion the tax increment financing portion of this particular development. And then the redevelopment agreement was approved on May 24th of 2022 for this particular project. So what the approvals are today are really the final approvals to allow this project to move forward and be constructed. The construction timeline is the summer of 2024, so the summer of next year. I would tell you that there were numerous neighborhood meetings over the course of the approval process. There's been lots of neighborhood engagement and discussions outside of those neighborhood meetings as well. And we believe that there's been a lot of detail and discussion with the planning department, public works department, et cetera, on all of the various aspects of this development, including the construction of 49th Avenue, which is being constructed with this particular project. It's being 100% fronted and paid for by this developer along the frontage of this development as far as 49th Street. And then the subdivision agreement that you have in front of you today actually splits the cost of the remaining length of 49th Avenue and 50th Street to Pacific Street with the City of Omaha. So all of that was a requirement of the Public Works Department. This developer has cooperated fully with the Planning Department, Public Works Department, in making sure that we have produced and provided a very nice project, and one that fits in very well with this particular community. Again, this fronts onto Saddle Creek. That's where the main portion and the front portion of this property is and project will be facing. Everything to 49th Avenue was really designed to be more residential in character, pitched roofs, and we went through all of that before. I have all the photographs and elevations and site plans if you want to get into those, but I thought for now, since we've talked about this project so much in so many different settings before this council in the past, that maybe we would get to any neighborhood concerns or any questions that any of you may have regarding this particular project. So with that, I will yield the floor and request your support.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other proponents today on these items? Seeing none, any opponents?
Good afternoon. You'll have to excuse me, I just wrote this up this morning, so it might be a little all over the place. Just to address Mr. Jobin's...
Just need your name and address for
Oh, I'm sorry. Debbie Rushlaw, 1010 South 49th Avenue, 68106. All right. So there have not been numerous meetings with the developer. We've had 2 meetings that I can recall. I think that's correct. And as far as right now, what Mr. Jobin was saying about the developer paying for the extension of 49th Avenue onto Pacific to 50th Street, this is the first that we've heard about that. The last information that we got, which was just recently, was 49th Avenue was going to stop right at the end of the property where the apartments are being built. It will not be extended to Pacific and down to 50th. Is that just recently new, Mr. Jobin?
We can ask him that question in a minute. Yeah.
All right. All right, so for now, I wanted to bring this to the attention, just a few items that we've mentioned before. As you know, 2 entrances are not required by code. The need to open 49th Avenue just to put in another access is totally unnecessary. There are 2 apartment buildings recently built, the Boz and the Skag, that are in our neighborhoods that only required 1 entrance. By opening 49th Avenue, the increase of traffic to a small, narrow neighborhood street will only cause more problems, especially on the 49th Street curve onto Mayberry. It will also increase the already difficult parking situation as these older homes have very limited parking. In addition, you're adding extra strain to a non-separated sewer system that on Saddle Creek that is incapable of handling even a moderate rainfall without flooding. Tenants will be paying $150 a month to park in a garage that will flood. So at this time, that's all I have to say today. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other opponents that want to speak today?
Hello all, I'm Colleen Tanner, 846 South 49th Street, Omaha. I'm going to be right across from this development. We have talked many times. I have brought up several things, and over this past year, 2 years, I have gotten a hold of Larry Jobin and discussed some issues that were discussed at the city council before. I've also recently talked to Randy on some issues, but I just wanted to run through those concerns because we are on 2 small side streets, 49th and Mayberry. We have asked in the past that we would not have any of the large semis, dump trucks, and all that kind of equipment coming through the neighborhoods. The streets are worn down, torn down, dropping, sinking, so we could not have any more of this heavy traffic coming through the area. They have agreed with that, and I just wanted it documented that this was an agreement between them. As far as their pickup trucks and things like that, for Larry and Randy and who all to come through, that's not what we're saying. We're talking all construction vehicles off of 49th Street, 49th, and off of Mayberry. We've asked that the roads be kept up with debris and all that on a regular basis, and they have agreed on that. I just kind of wanted some of these things. We have talked to Danny in the past with some issues, and so I just wanted it noted that they have agreed to work with us on that. When they were demoing, we had just a nightmare with some problems with the demo people, and had to get the city involved a lot, and so there's people that are handicapped in the area, there's people with asthma and other lung issues, COPDs and things like that, that a lot of the silica that they were trying to break the cement down with that, which all of that was blowing into our areas. I am right across the street from this, and I get most of it, so. I just want all that noted, that that was agreed upon, and that's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you. We can confirm that here in a minute. Any other opponents that want to speak?
Larry Storr, 5015 Lafayette Avenue, Omaha, 68132. I don't live on Mayberry, but if I don't speak up about this, I might have the same situation in my own neighborhood. When I speak about transparency, I mean it. I've read your documents that are online with this particular item, It says nothing whatsoever about Mayberry. I've driven that area quite a few times over the time since May of 2022. I don't know, maybe some of these people recognize me. I spoke about it then, and I'm speaking about it now. These documents say nothing about Mayberry. It says nothing about apartment buildings. It implies that this is all street and sewer work. And it does, the documents say that the city is paying for part of this. It doesn't say anything about there's going to be apartment buildings or homes. If you drive that area, they must be talking about that slope going up from Saddle Creek. And guess what, folks? It's already prepared and ready to start digging. This was decided back in 22. And citizens cannot stop it unless they're ahead of the game. Unless they go to the planning meetings ahead of the game that they probably never hear about, they're not going to stop it. And here we go again. Another big project. But today there are some people here. Usually there are not. But these people must be paying attention. And maybe you did give public notice adequately, but you're not listening to them. Those are awful nice little houses in there and very nice private properties, just like the item just before. Oh, well, let's go take some private property that people bought their houses to be able to enjoy. Well, you can't do that anymore because we want density. But you're driving most people out of affordable living areas. And then you come back and you say you want affordable housing. Oh, here's some 850 square foot houses for older people. But guess what? The builders get TIF. They get some kind of funding through the city or the county, and then they sell it to you for $115,000. How many people can afford that? I can't sell my house and move into something for $115,000 because of what? The taxes on the sale, the capital gain on the sale, and oh yes, we have an inheritance tax, don't we? So I'm not likely to be able to find a place for $115,000 without another mortgage. So let's be honest with the people here. This is about building apartments. We just heard it from him. We didn't see it in the documents. It was not transparent, and I'm against it. I think you should vote against it until you come straight forward with it. I'm sorry that I have to act like this in order to get answers, but that's the way it seems to go here in these chambers. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other opponents? Public hearing is closed. Mr. Harding, you're recognized.
I'll ask Mr. Jobin to come up and address some of the questions or issues, but to address some of the things that have been said to date on this is that this is a PUR. One of the items we're considering is a PUR. It talks very much about the apartments and the housing, and it is very transparent, and all the documentation is there and readily available for the public to click on the hyperlink and get all that information. So I at least wanted to preface that, but there were some questions raised by some of the neighbors too, Mr. Jobin, if you could address some of those.
Thank you, Mr. Harding. Larry Jobin, 11440 West End Road, appearing on behalf of the developer. So in addition to the numerous meetings that we had and discussions we had prior to the planning board meeting, this, like all other projects, is a 4-step process. But in this particular case with the TIF, it really became a 5 or 6-step process. So the 4-step process was preliminary plat before the planning board, preliminary plat before this council, final plat today, which we're here, or final plat before the planning board, final plat before this council, which we're here for today. In addition to that, I explained that we had in 2022, in March and in May, the redevelopment plan and the redevelopment agreement approved, which all of these documents called for the rezoning of the property to allow for the 195 apartment units, the PUR that also allowed for that. So the zoning has been at issue on, really in some respects, this is the third occasion because you had the rezoning at issue at the preliminary plat at the planning board, and then at the redevelopment plan before this council, and now with the final plat before this council. So the rezoning is all part of this approval. I think item 10 is the rezoning. Item 11 is the also the rezoning to the community commercial, which I'll have a site plan. I'll kind of show you the 49th Avenue and the Pacific to 50th Street configuration as well. You had the MCC overlay district, which is also part of the zoning that kicks in the urban design code. So there's a higher standard of design criteria that has to be used with this particular project. You have item 13, which is the PUR that I mentioned earlier, which is all part of the zoning. You had the item 14, which is the final plat. And then you have item 15, which is the subdivision agreement, which calls for the sharing of 49th Avenue and Pacific Street to 50th Street. And so there, I can't think of many more projects that have had much more review than this particular project, not only before the various departments within the city, but also the planning board and also the city council, and the numerous times we reached out. And I appreciate Colleen Tanner, and by the way, we're in full agreement to avoid construction traffic coming through the residential neighborhood. So I'm in agreement with that, and so I appreciate what she said, and that is true. We agree to that, and the developer will make its best efforts to make sure that that does not occur.
And
So
I was going to ask you to confirm that. So I
that,
appreciate
yes,
it.
that, absolutely. So if I can turn on your, so this right here is really the site plan, kind of shows the configuration. Again, Saddle Creek here. You have the two commercial lots in this location. You've got the access coming in off of Saddle Creek. You've got the structured parking entrance on the east side of the building and on the south side of the building. The idea then, it makes connectivity up to 49th Avenue. Connectivity is part of the master plan. It's what the planning department requires as far as development and connectivity into the neighborhoods. You'll note that most of the traffic is not going to go up through the neighborhoods because there's nowhere to go, right? Most of them are going to come out onto Saddle Creek, where you have a major arterial street. The idea behind connectivity is to allow the neighbors here to come through our project, because there's a public access easement, to access both the commercial lots that are being subdivided as part of this development, and also they can access Saddle Creek, something that they've never been able to do before. They've been blocked off by the commercial industrial type users that have been along Saddle Creek in this location. So the recommendation reports, as far as transparency, have said almost from the beginning, I believe, is for the developer to coordinate with Public Works regarding the installation of 49th Avenue. And then I think it was decided that maybe with this, we should also look at extending Pacific Street to 50th Street to make this a better through street. I would tell you, and you all know this because we talked about this numerous times as well, 49th Avenue has been a dedicated street right away since like the 20s. Pacific Street has been a dedicated street right away since the 20s. It just hasn't been constructed. So this was an opportunity for, and with this development, to extend 49th Avenue down to Pacific Street and Pacific Street to 50th Street. That's something that Public Works wanted to see. The developer in this case was agreeable to it. It's all part of the redevelopment process and project. And so that's what we are doing.
So one other question, to address Ms. Tanner's questions. For the construction activity, or for the service vehicles doing that, on the west side of the property where the kind of that single-story product, or kind of the more kind of residential, single-family residential looking type.
Right.
There's a huge grade change as you go from west dropping to the east. So how are they going to be able to access that without the interruption that I think the neighbors were looking at.
That's probably a question more for John from Olson. But most of the construction traffic and the heavy construction traffic, I mean, this is a podium building.
Yeah.
It's got structured parking and 195 units. So most of the construction, I'm fairly certain of, that will occur off of Saddle Creek and not 49th. But let me turn it over to John because he'll have a better idea of the slopes and how we constructed. So,
thanks.
John McCarville with Olson, 2111 South 67th Avenue. So a lot of the grade change is actually going to be eaten up with the building as far as construction goes. They can access it, and the way we've drawn out our preliminary plans is for access, primary access to be off of Saddle Creek for construction traffic. There will be construction up into, the western side of this. There will also be construction traffic to construct the roads themselves. But primarily for construction related to the building and to the apartments, they'll be coming from the east side. Does that answer the question?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's it. Good. Mr. Bagley, you're recognized.
Thanks, Mr. President. Mr. Jobin, a couple questions.
Sure.
Councilmember Harding covered some of the things I wanted to bring up, so thanks for that, Councilmember Harding. When construction begins, you think it'll be summer of 2024, roughly?
Correct.
Okay. So when the shovels hit the ground and construction begins, now, obviously, the houses and everything have been removed. It's fenced off. So when that project begins here in the summer of 24, is there a person that, if I'm a neighbor, that I can contact if there's, I know it was mentioned, the Boss Apartments right across from my house. So when those were built, I ran into this, and I just seen a guy that was working there that I kind of got to know, being across from my house, that if I had issues of parking or something, at least I knew where he was, and it was a pretty good relationship. For the people for CIP, the Tanners, the Rushlaws, they can call their council member, but I'm going to be finding you. So will there be that person on site when construction starts that they can get through the bumps in the road and challenges?
Absolutely. And Randy has all of their contact information. They have all of Randy's contact information, who's with the developer, and they can call him anytime. And obviously, Mr. Bagley, you can call me anytime if something's not going the way it's supposed to be going.
Okay, no, I appreciate that. And so you mentioned it was, and I was digging up when we got this back on the agenda. There's 195 units. How many parking stalls are there? Is it
297, I believe, and there's 293 that are required.
Okay.
Hold on, I'll give you that. Sorry about that. There are 277 off-street parking spaces required, and there are 293 provided. So
okay,
we're in excess of the parking requirements under the code.
Okay, appreciate that. A question for Mr. Stubbe.
Bob Stubbe, Public Works.
Bob, it was mentioned in a fair point that the neighbors made, when all this is going on, it's going to be invasion of the neighborhood. So if the roads get damaged during construction, how does that process work for the city? That if there's something damaged, what is the process for that?
So obviously, we have a preference, and it's already been stated, that a majority of the construction activity come off of Saddle Creek. So that's a benefit from the perspective of keeping trucks out of the neighborhood. But obviously, the city has responsibility for the streets within the public right-of-way. If there's issues that occur relative to damage to the street, that's something that we will take care of. If it's determined that it's something that's related to the construction activity, obviously, we're going to pursue the developer and see if we can work out something.
Okay, thanks, Bob. Another question, Larry, sorry to get you back up. If there's debris issues during construction, is that part of your team that they will make sure that, how does that process work for a developer?
I think that works the same way, and that they should feel comfortable calling Randy to make sure that that those issues are addressed. And Randy, of course, will have the hammer over the contractor to make sure that they're not having debris, not having dust, and not being intrusive into the neighborhood during the construction process.
And just so you're on notice, I know you know this, your council member lives right across Saddle Creek.
I do
from
know that.
this, So, not that I'll be driving by every day, but that'll be extra eyes that I'll hear from the Tanners and the Rush Laws, and you'll hear from me. But I'm looking forward to, I know there's been a lot of debate on this, but I think it's a great project. And like the boss across from my house where I still live, before I ever dreamt of running for the city council on days like this, I'm wondering sometimes, it was fun to be a private citizen, but in all honesty, that project was great. The neighbors are great. Traffic is addressed by, we talked about that, by Public Works when this started. So I am looking forward to this, and any bumps in the road, I know we'll work it out. And Colleen and Scott, they have my phone number, my address, my email, some family members that you know that we both know that can find me. So I will look forward to a smooth process. If there's bumps in the road, then I'm confident we can address them as they go forward.
Thank you.
Thanks,
I am
Larry.
as well.
Make a motion to approve.
There's a motion and a second to approve. Mr. Hug, you're recognized.
Larry, I just like to see going up and down, I'm assuming these are market rate apartments.
They are market rate apartments, yes.
So do you anticipate any Section 8?
No,
Subsidized?
no. There's a unit mix of 80 studio apartments that are about 1,064 a month. They're about 516 square feet each. There's 67 one-bedrooms that are 767 square feet. They're about $1,320 a month. And then there's 48 two-bedrooms that are 1,860 square feet per unit, and they go for about $1,700 a month. So all conventional financed units.
All right. Those apartment rates sound like they're more on the lower rate of what the market is currently.
Well, they're smaller units if you think about it. I mean, you got 567 square feet of the studios, and you got 767 square feet on the one bedrooms. The two bedrooms are fairly large at 860 square feet. But so there's a large number of units, but I think their rents are lower because they're smaller units themselves.
Yeah, the one bedroom we moved out of a few years ago was 580 square feet. That was a one bedroom. So
yes,
studio at 580 is not a bad sized studio.
Right.
Do you have an artist rendering?
Yeah. Yeah, you didn't have the
Probably in
benefit.
here, but
You weren't on the council when all these different discussions
yeah,
were
I'm the new
had.
guy. Rub it in.
So, so at the top, that's the north elevation along Mayberry. This is the east elevation along Saddle Creek. This shows the parking structure underneath the units. This is the south elevation, which again shows the other access point into the structured parking. And then this is the west elevation, which is adjacent to the residential neighborhood.
That's the 49th Ave side right there.
This is exactly, and so you'll notice that it's lower in height, it's got pitched roofs, it's more residential in character. That was on purpose, obviously, to fit in more with the fabric of the neighborhood. You have these areas here that break up the buildings, so you just don't have a row of buildings. And so there was a lot of thought, and we worked very hard with the planning department to come up with this kind of
And the second
design.
image below, am I reading that right, that that's a parking garage underneath it?
Underneath here, that's the south image, or I should say the south elevation. So
I'm
that's
talking with the image up, one up.
this one.
No, one more up.
One more up.
There you
That is the east elevation along Saddle Creek. So that will be adjacent to the two commercial lots and then Saddle Creek. So the residential neighborhood to the north and the west will not see this.
Okay, but is there a parking garage below that?
There is, you can see it right here.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and here's the entrance point
Yeah.
into it.
Well, I know this neighborhood well. They spent a lot of years running around down there, but where's the neighbors? If you can't get a hold of Danny, I know where to get a hold of him, so, but you can always get a hold of me if there's a problem. But I'll call Danny. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. No further lights. There's a motion and a second to approve. Roll call.
Bagley. Harding. Hug. Johnson. Melton. Rowe. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
Thank you.
Item 16, a resolution to approve a special use permit to allow daycare services in the R435 district located at 6124 Ellison Avenue. Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval.
Public hearing and vote on number 16 is today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing's closed. Ms. Okay. Did you want any further remarks, Ms. Johnson? Okay. There's a motion and a second to approve. Roll call.
Bagley. Harding. Hug. Johnson. Melton. Rowe. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0. Item 17, a resolution to approve a special use permit to allow a daycare in the R435 district located at 3112 South 44th Avenue. Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval.
Public hearing and vote on number 17 is today. Proponents, please. Council members, I believe the proponent was here but had to leave for daycare purposes, which is the purpose of this item. Are there any opponents? Seeing none, public hearing's closed. There's a motion, a second to approve. Roll call.
Bagley. Harding. Hug. Johnson. Melton. Rowe. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0. Item 18, a resolution to approve the 30th and Fowler Tax Increment Financing Redevelopment Project Plan located at 4702-4720 North 30th Street in an amount up to $322,179.
Public hearing and vote on number 18 is today. Proponents, please.
Yeah, good afternoon. Don Seaton, Omaha City Planning. This project combines 6 parcels along North 30th Street, just across the street from Aldi's Grocery. The project site contains 3 single-family homes. They are vacant and in poor condition. These will be demolished and a new commercial building of about 4,185 square feet will be constructed. The owner developer will lease this space to a financial institution. This project is located in an extremely blighted area, so it will have a 20-year TIF term. Total project investment is $2.7 million approximately. They're asking for $322,179 in TIF support. Project meets the required criteria of our TIF program. It's an appropriate use for the area. Complies with our city's master plan goals. We ask for your approval.
Thank you. Other proponents?
Thank you, Mr. President. Council members, Bob Griffith, 11440 West Center Road, here on behalf of the applicant, Woodsonia Fowler LLC. Thank you, Don, for presenting. Appreciate your help in getting this project to this point. I wanted to put up some quick images of what the site currently looks like, just to give you an idea. As Don mentioned, there's 6 parcels, 3 of which I believe are vacant, and then there are 3 dilapidated homes which will be removed, and then a shed as well in the back where the alley is. This is a small infill project. With that comes some challenges, including, in this case, there's some elevated demolition costs due to the large trees in the homes, and then there's a good amount of half-buried concrete slabs and then sidewalk around 3 sides that will need to get removed. So the TIF portion of this project is essential to see this one through. As Don also mentioned, it will be a bank branch. With that comes about 10 high-quality permanent jobs and additionally about $100,000 worth of public improvements. So the project removes a long-standing blight in the neighborhood and then adds some services to the community in the financial area. So we've had communication with Councilwoman Johnson. We appreciate that and her guidance to continue that, as well as reached out to numerous neighborhood associations on a number of occasions. And we've had some questions, but no negative feedback to this point. So with that, we're happy to answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other proponents? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Ms. Johnson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for your time and effort in bringing this forth in North Omaha. Really appreciate that. Looking forward to the investment. I'm looking forward to the engagement and the outcome, and most definitely the jobs that this will present. I motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. No further lights. Roll call.
Bagley. Harding. Hug. Johnson. Melton. Rowe. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0. Item 19, a resolution to approve extremely blighted areas generally bounded by Ames Avenue on the north, Parker, Charles, and Hamilton Streets on the south, North 30th Street on the east, and Northwest Radial Highway and North 40th Street on the west.
Public hearing and vote on number 19 is today. Proponents, please.
Yeah, Don Seaton again, Omaha City Planning. Good afternoon. This item asks you to designate a portion of the city as an extremely blighted area. One of the reasons this designation is desired is that it allows TIF projects, tax increment financing projects, to use a longer 20-year term rather than a 15-year term. But it also provides a $5,000 state income tax credit to owner-occupant home buyers who buy homes in the area. We were asked by Holy Name Housing to conduct an EBA study of this area. They have an affordable housing development planned at 40th and Franklin, which is kind of the southern portion of the area in black there. This is the area that we're talking about. It's comprised of 7 census block groups. We expanded the area after looking at the data and looking at the map. All the green around it is presently EBA designated areas. So we expanded the area. Holy Name also has some activities and developments in this area as well. To be eligible for an EBA designation, the area must also be a community redevelopment area. These 7 census block groups have black boundaries, a little difficult to see. They're all within a CRA presently. The other 2 criteria are the poverty rate and the unemployment rate. The unemployment rate for the cumulative population of this area is 13.1%. That exceeds the threshold for the requirement for the designation. The poverty rate is 26.6%, which also exceeds the threshold. So the area meets the criteria for EBA designation. We ask for your approval.
Thank you. Any other proponents?
Hi, Matthew Cavanaugh, Executive Director, Holy Name Housing Corporation, 4324 Fort Street. As Don mentioned, we were the applicant that instigated the request for the designation here. It was related originally to our project here down 40th and Franklin Street. So just a little bit about that project. Well, we acquired that land over a number of months, over a number of years ago, piecing together, try to get some large sites for larger infill projects. Then received an ARPA grant from the state, American Rescue Plan dollars, to do site improvement there, which was helpful. It's continued to inspire our focus in the area. It's obvious that the area needs significant infrastructure improvements. There's no improved roads, no sewers, no water, and it's significant potential other challenges in that strip. So it goes from 40th Street and dead ends at the old rail line. And our original interest in the area is that the rail line is planned to be converted to a bike trail. So we wanted to put in a residential development that will draw more attention, put more eyes on the trail and more life along that trail corridor. So we're really interested in developing some kind of active transit development that will complement the trail development at that point. We knew that there's going to be, as I said, significant financial challenges involved with those infrastructure improvements that will be required on this block. So that's why we reached out to planning to inquire about expanding the extremely blighted designation. We have, as Don mentioned, have focused significantly in this block area, the Census Tract 53, which is all of Adams Park and actually climbs down here. All of that's inside of Census Tract 53, which has been an area of focus for us. We've already, now that we started pursuing the extremely blighted designation, are pursuing another project here in this area under the oval there to do another infill housing project, scattered site infill housing, hoping that we can do an owner-occupied housing project there, which would take advantage of the other benefit that Don mentioned, which is the income tax credit for homeowners, people who purchase their homes in extremely blighted areas. So we have a lot of opportunity to take advantage of this project. And yeah, I'll leave it at that, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any other proponents today? See none. Any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Ms. Johnson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Hi, how are you? Can you come up to the mic there?
Sure.
You pointed out at a very important point, which was this area is very much in need of some TLC. But also this community is very old in nature. The infrastructure is old. When you go in there, you're going to have a lot of hiccups, unlike what you might experience in West Omaha. There is some historical significance to the area, cultural significance to the area, all those kinds of things. You mentioned the poverty level in the area. So quite naturally, there's going to be a lot of questions regarding how that will all unfold. And I'm going to be watching and monitoring and asking questions regarding all of that. So one of my priorities is going to be making sure that residents are not priced out of the area. That's going to be huge for me. Also suppliers, as we are looking at trying to increase economic growth in that area. Also engagement with the community as well as construction schedules so that this inconvenience, while construction is going on, neighbors need to be aware of what that looks like, what that shapes up to be for safety reasons and other things. So there's a lot of things that we need to get together and work through, and definitely encourage the residents in that area to navigate with us as we encounter this journey.
Absolutely, yeah. I look forward to working with you on that, and those are all priorities for Holy Name Housing.
Okay.
Thank you.
Then I got your back.
All right, thank you. I look
Thank
forward
you.
to it.
Is that a motion?
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion and a second to approve. Roll call.
Bagley. Harding. Hug. Johnson.
Yes.
Melton.
Yes.
Rowe. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0. Consent agenda. Any member of the city council may cause any item placed on the consent agenda to be removed. Items removed from the consent agenda shall be taken up by the city council immediately following the consent agenda in the order in which they were removed unless otherwise provided by the city council rules of order.
The public hearings on agenda items 20 and 21 were held on November 14th. Is there any lights or is there a motion?
Motion to approve, please. Second.
Motion and a second. Any further lights? I think I will just comment shortly, but I don't see any other lights, but I do support these two items, and I do support the BID mechanism as a important additive to neighborhood business districts throughout the community, and I think they've proven their worth. Having been on the ground floor of several of them when they first started, they are very labor intensive up front, and it's important to drive as much consensus as possible amongst participants at that point, and at the point number 20 is at this juncture. I know Mr. Begley has worked hard to try and do that, and I know that the applicants or proponents have tried hard to do that. I would like to have seen a little more consensus at this point than maybe we have, that we experienced from the conversation, I guess, 2 weeks ago at a pretty long public hearing. But it's also my experience that you can't cherry pick different properties within an area that's so tight-knit, and it's really important to continue that dialogue and to continue to work together. And I think as we found with number 21, over time, that does work, and number 21 had a sunset provision, and that's why it's back in front of us today for approval. And I think it has proven its worth, and I think every other BID in the city has proven its worth to date as well. And I think this one will too. So that's why I'm supportive. I do think it's also a reasonable proposition, actually a fairly conservative budget to start with, that does identify what I would say are pretty typical BID activities throughout the city. And it does have a 5-year sunset as well. So if consensus is not achieved over that time, it'll come back to us for further dialogue. So for those reasons, I'm supportive today of both numbers 20 and 21. Mr. Bagley, you're recognized.
President, in respect to number 20, I appreciate everybody that's here today. And the public hearing we had a couple weeks ago, we went through a lot of information, and I am continuing to be supportive of this today. And the one thing I will say is that everybody involved down in Little Bohemia, it's a changing neighborhood, as we all know, from the Hempels that have been there for 3 generations to the newer businesses and the investment in the neighborhood. I would encourage all of you to meet and confer and continue discussing things as this process moves forward, the BID is formed. And Council President Festerson, I've leaned on a lot on my time on the council, Councilmember Harding and others on BIDs, on how they've worked for people that have been around longer than I have. And Pete mentioned it correctly, sometimes it's not easy. But I do believe in the process that we've had for Little Bohemia, and that's, I'll encourage you all to continue communicating, and that's why I'm glad to support this today. Thanks, Mr. President.
Thank you. No further lights. There's a motion and a second. Roll call.
Bagley. Harding. Hug. Johnson. Melton.
Yes.
Rowe. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 6-1.
The public hearings on agenda items 22 through 44 are today. If you wish to address the City Council regarding these items, please come to the microphone, indicate the agenda item number you wish to address, identify yourself by name, address, and who you represent, and if you are a proponent or an opponent. This is 22 through 44. Okay. I'm going to amend that public hearing just 1 second here. We're going to pull number 41 from the consent agenda and do that separately. So the public hearings right now we're having are on 22 through 40 and 42 through 44.
I'm sorry, did you pull 41?
Yes. We'll do that separately. Okay. Any speakers on these items? 22 through 40 and 42 through 44, just for clarity. Okay. Seeing. 25. Okay. Do you want to speak?
Hi, I'm Terry Reed. I'm number 25, I guess.
He's good. Yeah.
Liquor license for Jonesy's Tacos, 6009 Woolworth Ave, and I'm just taking it over for my mother. So.
Okay. Great. Just here for questions. Yep. Thanks for being here. Any other testifiers on these items? Seeing none, public hearings closed.
40 and 42 through 44.
Second.
Motion a second to approve. Roll call.
Bagley. Harding. Hug. Melton.
Yes.
Rowe. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 6-0.
We'll have the public hearing on number 41 now. Do you want to read that up? Okay.
Item 41, a resolution to approve membership dues to the National League of Cities.
The public hearing and vote on number 41 is today. Proponents, please. I'll have Mr. Station come down to address this item.
Keith Station, Mayor's Office. Mr. President, members of council, just a few remarks related to the city's membership with the National League of Cities. The NLC, or the National League of Cities, is a vast organization, does a lot of things, offering a wide range of services and resources to its member cities, most notably to advocate for, to protect the interests of cities, towns, and villages, influencing federal policy, strengthening local leadership, and driving innovative solutions. The National League of Cities was a venue for cities to inform the American Rescue Plan Act, or ARPA. Also the bipartisan infrastructure bill, dollars that the local area has and will be receiving. The NLC is a resource for challenges faced and solutions, and innovative focus on solving issues of tomorrow is what they pride themselves on, and the member organizations. Some of the things that we've received from the NLC are data, training programs, information on pedestrian zones, housing, and grants administration. Recently, some of my colleagues have participated in programs dealing with entrepreneurship, innovation, and also as recently as last month, our Director of Human Rights and Relations attended a conference in Atlanta with dealing with small and emerging businesses and creating a support network for those, for engagement and SEB programs. The NLC is the only national organization that represents both mayors and councils, so that's an important feature. I recently spoke with leadership at the League of Nebraska Municipalities, and they reminded us that those that don't participate are governed by those that do. And so it makes sense to note that in order to remain a member in good standing with the League of Nebraska Municipalities, you need to be a member of the National League of Cities. So some of the work that I've had a chance to work directly with along with my colleagues is with the NLC's department, the REAL Division of Race, Equity, and Leadership Department. And over the last 12 months, we worked with their consultant group to develop a strategic plan for diversity, equity, and inclusion to address racial equity work within the city. They have offered training and education. We've developed a plan for professional development opportunities. We are formulating employee resource groups, and also we're developing strategies that support talent attraction and retention and employment branding for the city. So those are just a few of the things. We've done trainings, workshops, and assessments and surveys and such, and those have been very valuable to our work on behalf of the mayor's city employee DEI board. So in conclusion, I think the return is well worth the investment, and happy to answer any questions the council may have.
Thank you. Any other proponents today? Seeing none, any opponents?
Larry Storer, 5015 Lafayette Avenue, Omaha 68132. I'm opposed to this. I think if you listen to my testimony this morning at the Douglas County Board, you can use that as to some of my reasons. We the people hired you. You work for us. I'd like to have $24,000 for giving you input on how to be a good city. But I'd like other people amongst the we people whose voices are rising very fast now, and you better be ready for it. We want our sovereignty back. I don't want you going to other areas and paying other people dues for advice. I want you to listen to us. That's what it was designed to be. You are forsaking your oaths of office. Pay somebody in Omaha $25,000 to help design your city. I don't want to be like some other city. And maybe Council Bluffs doesn't want us moving in on their territory with some of your metropolitan plans. And we the people, when we do speak like this, we often get a lot of frowns and maybe some snide remarks after we sit down. Occasionally you come down to the podium as a citizen and speak against us because your little attorneys up there say you can't talk to us while you're in your chair. But they forgot that you work for us. You don't work for them. They don't work for you. You all work for us because they're on your salary, which we pay. I'm going to close with please play back today's comments because I talked about Robert J. Borer. Robert J. Borer does have skin in the game. He's run for Secretary of State. He's run for governor on a write-in ballot. He knows about the elections and how they were stolen through machines and software.
Larry, we're not talking about the
Excuse me.
No, excuse me, we're not
This
talking
is,
about the
excuse
elections.
me, this is part of it.
It is not part
This
of
is
the
part of the National League of Cities.
It is not
okay?
part of the National
Yeah.
League of Cities.
Well, you're wrong. You are, and that's exactly why you should step down, because you're not honoring your oath of office.
Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Any other opponents that want to speak today? Seeing none, public hearing is closed. Ms. Johnson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Station, I have some follow-up questions for you. First of all, I'd like to say it's quite admirable that the City of Omaha is recognizing the value of diversity, equity, and inclusion. But we know that based upon statistic and knowledge and all of these lovely things, that diversity and equity and inclusion is only effective when it's applied correctly. So checking the box doesn't make it the overall significant piece of it being working for the various individuals in our city. So I'm thinking that it is very great that we're doing this, but I have some questions regarding the National League of Cities, because we have to have accountability. Giving money to an organization to assist us in doing what we should already be doing is good, but what are the outcomes? Where is the accountability of all of these things? So I have these questions that I'd like to ask of you. Maybe you can help me understand what's going on here.
Sure. Keith Station, I'm sorry. Continue.
What specific benefits does the city gain from being a member?
Keith Station, Mayor's Office. Thank you for those questions, and you raised some good points. The first thing I'll say is that the work that we've done toward the latter portion of my comments with the REAL team is only a portion of what is one of the benefits of working with the National League of Cities. So they offered a wide range of things. And so specific benefits we received are technical assistance, advice on things that have worked in other communities, ways that we can be mindful of the laws that exist. For example, being mindful of the state constitution and how our work stays aligned with that. They've offered surveys and workshops for elected officials specifically. That's one of the things that the NLC does, promotes that they do well, is that they offer this kind of training and advice specifically for municipalities. There's lots of consultants and trainers and entities you can look to for guidance on how to administer equity work or diversity, equity, inclusion. But the NLC does it specifically for cities, and they're mindful of the nuance that exists for elected officials and for city leaders and for state constitutions that have rules that address how we do this work. They've offered workshops for the mayor and again for you and your colleagues and other city directors to specifically offer strategies on how we support the work and how you make sure you don't, for example, you weaponize the work. You know, the work must remain about people. It's about taking care of our workforce in a way that allows us to take care of community members. That's what it's about. And it's about nothing else. And so it will hopefully provide us with everyone, from elected officials on down, with a lens to take a look at how we, what we fund, how we hire, how we conduct our business, again, ultimately to benefit the citizens of the city better. So they've offered a lot of ongoing relationship to offer advice, to help us figure out how we will measure the impact of our work, how we will evaluate employee resource groups that we stand up, and what the benefits of those are, how to avoid pitfalls with some of the initiatives that we may engage in. So they are experienced and they stand ready to offer advice and be a sounding board and help us, you know, moving forward to make sure we are hitting our goals and getting the benefit of our contract for last year.
So with that being said, how would I contact anyone there at that office to receive the benefits?
Contact the NLC office or?
Yeah.
Well, A few ways. They offer so many things. They offer things for elected officials. They offer things for neighborhoods, early childhood education. So depending on what your concern was or your need was, you could call and be routed to a subject matter expert that could address the issue that you had. Or you can work with, there are several staff across departments who have contacts and who are engaged in subcommittee work with the NLC that you could reach out to. So you could start with me, or you could reach out to the NLC directly. And as a member or member municipality, they would route you to services that maybe might answer your question. And also, I just want to underscore again, the connection to the League of Nebraska municipalities to address local issues is a key component as well.
Well, what if you have an individual such as me that does not want to be spoon-fed? Someone wants to navigate and get answers on their own. How would they go about getting the information through this organization?
So you can call directly and ask questions, and the website is robust as well. So if you go to nlc.org, you can find any answer to a question you're looking for, I suppose. But if you can't, you can always call, and they're pretty responsive to answer a question you may have. There's a ton of data that they have parked on the website that can allow you to find answers to your question. But they certainly are willing to engage with whatever your concern is. In some cases, the answer you're looking for may be with the local group, maybe with us. But if we don't have the answer, the NLC, I think, has agreed to stand ready to help you find the answer you're looking for.
So we've already discussed the cost of this membership. Are there different membership levels? And what additional benefits come about if we were to engage in higher levels?
I'm not sure about that. I can get that information, but I'm not sure if the amount that we are paying for the 2024 general fund allocation for the membership is one size fit all. I know that we are a small city within how they categorize municipalities. I'm not sure about that. I can get that answer. But related to the work that we've done using them as a consultant, there was an additional fee on top of that annual membership fee.
And how does the league interests represent our city interests on the national level?
So they advocate for policy. Again, a couple of recent very significant examples are ARPA and the bipartisan infrastructure bill. They, as a member of the NLC, that provides the mechanism to provide information to Congress and to the federal departments that contribute to developing those acts and those funding mechanisms that ultimately come to us with guidance and with stipulations on how we can utilize money to address roads and other infrastructure.
So I imagine that this organization is a great opportunity for networking. So what networking opportunities does the membership provide to city officials, such as myself?
Well, a few ways. Again, I mentioned that our Human Rights and Relations Director just attended a training in Atlanta, I believe it was, or a conference in Atlanta. And that and anyone can go and register. Any member municipality can register attendees, and that's a way to network. Again, the purpose of that convening was to create a peer support network for SEBs in this case. But there are councils of elected officials. I know that Vice President Melton was engaged at a committee level, and so there are specific invitations for elected officials to participate and network and talk to your peers in other cities.
So how are people like myself notified that these network opportunities exist?
Well, a couple ways. We reach out directly, and also the NLC sends out emails about those opportunities. I just received one recently, as a matter of fact, to participate with a committee or join a subcommittee to offer feedback and help design strategies for how cities meet the needs of their unique community concerns. So a couple ways, just through our engagement and ongoing dialogue and directly from the NLC.
So should I not be receiving, or should I be receiving emails from this organization as an elected official?
I think we all should. I think that we should make sure that everyone is signed up to receive the email blast that they push out. Again, for depending on what issues you want to be involved with or be informed about, you receive different types of emails, because again, the organization is vast. They do all types of things. And so you don't want every single email that the organization pushes out, but you might be able to sign up for a couple of the distributions that deal directly with what you're getting at.
Can we obtain feedback from other cities that are members?
Yes, we can, and we have, in fact.
Have you shared that information with folks like me?
Yes, the last time we spoke about it was last August, and before the council unanimously approved that contract to get the consulting services from the NLC. I was asked about other cities that we had spoken to before we entered into that agreement that provided feedback, and to a person, they all gave a ringing endorsement for developing a consultant partnership like the one we engaged in. So yes, we have, and we'll continue to. We continue to bring in additional peer groups that can advise us.
So my experience with organizations such as this, members are sharing information daily. So in order for me to gain the most impact, I'm not asking for something daily, but I'm sure that they have a newsletter, they have some type of correspondence, or where that information regarding real life situations is being shared. The way I'm understanding it to be is that I need to wait on you to deliver that product to me, and I can't get it. Is that correct or what?
No, not necessarily. We're happy to provide it, but you can also, again, sign up for a listserv to have it pushed out. To your earlier question, you could reach out to NLC staff directly, and I'm sure that they could help us understand if there's a specific lane for elected officials to receive information. So there's more ways to receive information than there are, ways that I can mention here. There's lots of different ways, and there's no blockage to receive that. So you can get it from us as we receive it, or you can sign up directly, or you can call, or you can go onto the website, and the information you're talking about may not even be distributed, but it's just updated on the website.
Well, I also see this as a vehicle whereby, as an elected official, and I'm trying to navigate with departmental heads, such as here at the City of Omaha, obviously, I'm quite different than everyone else simply because I'm an African American. Obviously, I haven't walked a day in the life of a European. So there's going to be some struggles, and there's going to be some misperception about what's being discussed in conversations. This sounds like a perfect opportunity for me to navigate and others to navigate with why those differences occur and why those misunderstandings occur. More importantly, why they need to seek questions for understanding rather than arriving at destinations of negativity. So, with that being said, hopefully this organization is going to bridge that gap. Otherwise, as far as a person like me, we're just checking the box. And we have no value in having this or spending the money. So that brings me down to measurable impact. How will we assess the impact of the membership over time?
The impact of the membership. How do you mean the impact of the?
Is it working? How do we measure it? How do we know the outcomes?
Mm-hmm. A few ways. We for the first iteration of the strategy that the NLC has helped us to design, we will assess employees at the city. Again, we are developing employee resource groups that are a natural mechanism to create feedback loops for employees to leadership. We will, one of the directives that we have from the mayor's office, from the mayor, is to develop training for all city employees. And so we are taking great pains to make sure that that's done properly and to make sure that it's done effectively. And we're working with our human resources departments and working with city leaders to make sure that's designed well. So that'll be, even just completion of that will be a metric in its own right, in terms of how many city employees are trained and how they are trained or go through workshops. That'll be important. And again, their feedback on how those have gone. We've already offered some of those trainings through the Human Resources Department already. That'll be a metric. So engagement, certainly completion, the number of employee resource groups that we stand up will be an important metric. We will, a very important opportunity for us is to make sure that the city is known as an employer that is looking for talented, creative, energized people to work for the city. And so when we are trying to assess what the City of Omaha's employment brand is, we'll ask that question as people come into the organization and as they exit. And that'll develop some important data for us as well, we think.
So we can go through training for diversity, equity, and inclusion every day. We can go a month at a time. But the real impact and the real output of that is measured through actions. Because at some point, we need to understand and recognize differences. We need to be able to welcome differences. We need to be able to embrace differences. So we know from going to college daily that we go and we learn all of this information and we gather it, we collect it, but it means nothing until we put it out into practice and implement it and use it. So how will we do that? Will there be some mock conversations? Will there be some emulation, stimulation, some work-throughs? Will there be some way of engaging to make sure that once we heard this, that we are able to utilize it?
Right. So I don't disagree with you. I think that we need to make sure we develop training that we can put into practice. And our goal, the subject matter experts say that this work is about equipping everyone, especially leaders, with a lens that you look through. So it's not a one thing that you do. You can't just bolt it on, but you build it in, part of our DNA, part of how we do business. And so we'll look at how trainings can offer insight into how you do that. We'll talk to other cities. We'll talk to our consultant.
So it's not just incumbent upon an individual to embrace one person's culture or embrace or unite with a culture and deny their own culture in order to interact with people. And that's what diversity, equity, and inclusion is, Mr. Station. And to be quite frank, I'm not feeling all of that when I'm here every day. So hopefully this product that you're bringing to the table will address some of those concerns. Otherwise, I'll be the first to say that it's not doing the work that it's designed to do, but we're just simply checking the box.
I understand, but I'll be clear here that this, what's before us today is our membership, which covers a wide range of things. The contract that we just concluded here a month or so ago is a different issue, but related to the organization. So what we are addressing here today is our membership that allows us to have all the things I mentioned earlier.
I understand what this does, and I have received diversity, equity, and inclusion training.
Mm-hmm.
And I have been certified, so I know what I should be seeing here, and I'm not seeing it. I hope this is a good segue for us to grow as a city and embracing other people that don't look like the mainstream.
This partnership is, or this membership is a catalyst to doing that. Yes, it is.
Right, and I'm saying that this is an entry point. Hopefully, we will expand upon it to be something more than just a membership.
With your help and the help of your colleagues on council and other city leaders, we'll definitely do that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Rowe, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Keith, I just wanted to make a few comments. I appreciate what your department's been doing the last year. And I've engaged in the training in a group form and one-on-ones. And while I haven't agreed with everything that was discussed, I mean, people have differences of opinion, and I understand that, and I get that, and I'm okay with that. And I wanted to let you know, for me, it's been more than just checking the box. I have taken some of the things that I've learned in the training and put them into practice for me, just personally, not necessarily city work, but just me personally. And so I appreciate that, and look forward to experience those kind of relationships going forward. I guess my real question, though, is, so we had that contract last year, and you fulfilled, and they fulfilled what they were supposed to do in the contract, I'm sure. So what is your vision for the dollars that we're investing going forward? What specific types of programming are you looking at? Is it just a continuation of DEI? Are there other things that we can expect? Kind of speak to what your vision is going forward beyond that one aspect of the NLC.
Sure. Key Station Mayor's Office. Thank you, Councilman Rowe, and thank you for your support. It has helped us and has meant a lot for how the NLC recommends city leaders get behind the work. So a few things to answer your question specifically. They have taught us how to establish a foundation for the work. There's more to it than just offering training. They have helped us to develop a core equity team, is what they call it, and we had the makings of a core equity team with our board, but they helped us to stand up again a interdepartmental core equity team that allows us to understand how all the departments work together or don't work together. That creates an opportunity for us to have more engagement among all city employees. They share with us pitfalls for the work, because there can be some. They've helped us to understand how to address different audiences that we need to engage, whether it be this group or whether it be funders or the public. They've helped us to create that network of other communities that have done the work. They've helped us to understand how to create work that is sustainable, that outlives us in our roles. So if Key Station isn't here tomorrow, the work needs to continue to go on. And also they've helped us to understand how the work is not just up to the Chief Diversity Officer or people with diversity or inclusion in a title, but it really is up to everyone. And so each of the city departments that have, we have one City of Omaha mission, but each department has their own micro focus. And so they helped us to allow departments to adopt priorities and their own prerogatives as it relates to expanding a culture of inclusion in our city. They will help us to develop more training and more workshops, again, for leaders and for folks who have more front-facing roles with the public. They have helped us to evaluate some of our data that we've received from our HRIS system, our Human Resources Information System, that helps us to understand our demographics in ways that deal with race and ways that don't deal with race. And so they've offered just a multitude of intel and resources and data and anecdotes and examples, and again, some of those pitfalls to watch out for, to really set up the work in a way that will be sustainable.
So how would you characterize last year's work? Would you, if you were to put a grade on it, A through F, where do you think your department landed in working with that program from NLC?
A++. But it was a grind. It is difficult. Sometimes it's hard to talk about. Before we started, they assessed our readiness to engage in the work. They wanted to make sure that that they were a good fit for what we needed, and we think that they were. They taught us, showed us a ton of ways that this work will improve the city, because again, that's what it's about. We are dealing with some tough topics sometimes, but they never let us lose sight of this work being about our workforce. It's about our people. And you know, our mission says that we are supposed to deal with the issues of right now and the issues of tomorrow, and they helped us to think through that. So I'm a little biased, but I think we did a fantastic job. It was rigorous and it stretched us a bit, but I have to give kudos to my colleagues on the Mayor's Advisory Board and other city leaders and directors, some are in this room, that have supported the work and have understood that we all have a role in it, and just really finding what role you have is the key.
Well, based on what I heard from other people in the room, I'm not sure an A++ is probably appropriate. There's probably somewhere between that and F. I don't know where it is. I'm not sure where that is, but I think I would expect we would want to get a better engagement across the board on it.
Mhm.
And as Councilmember Johnson said, not spoon-fed, but something that our employees can really sink their teeth into.
Sure, that's fair, and this work is difficult, and we recognize that, and that's why it takes representation from all departments at all levels, and we'll continue to work on it, and I appreciate the feedback.
Thank you, Ms. Melton.
Yeah, I just want to clarify, you said that we are required to be a member of the National League of Cities in order to be a member of the League of Nebraska Municipalities?
That's my understanding, yes.
Because I just show that they're a partner. It doesn't show any of that on the website. It shows that 395 cities in Nebraska are part of the League of Nebraska Municipalities. I don't believe that all 395 of those municipalities belong to the National League of Cities.
Okay. Well, I'll double check.
I don't know that that's accurate.
That's what I received from the League of Nebraska Municipalities. I'll double check that.
And if that's true, I would like to know that, because I
Okay.
think it's extremely important that we maintain our relationship with the League of Nebraska Municipalities, especially when we're dealing with local control.
Definitely.
They are very active, especially in the legislature and in lobbying on parts of our city that can work with our lobbyists, and then also in knowing what's going on all over our state with all the other different cities, and Omaha being the largest. We are, I think, one of the leaders in that, and I think it's very important that we remain a member of the League of Nebraska Municipalities. So if we have to pay this amount to be a member of the National League of Cities, I guess it would have to be worth it, because the League of Nebraska Municipalities is so important for all the cities in our state. And I would hate to see something like that fail because Omaha didn't want to pay their dues. I have to tell you, I am probably the one that's been the most active member in the National League of Cities. I sat on a number of committees. I have to tell you that I think that the National League of Cities is extremely partisan. I do not think that they're very welcoming, and I think that they have agendas that they would like to get through. I was very hopeful because I had gotten involved as an invitation from some other mayors and councilpersons that I met on attending Community Leaders of America, which is mayors and council members. Again, we pay for all of those things. I went to the League of Cities. Those are all paid for. Nobody pays for those. So I just wanted you to know that we pay for all that travel out of our own pocket as council members. I just want to say that I was highly disappointed, I think, in the partisanship that I think the National League of Cities showed in even the contract that we had, which is completely separate from this. So I think we were kind of getting the DEI contract that we entered into with the National League of Cities, which we paid well over $100,000 for, I think 160 or so.
131.
131. Mm-hmm. We paid for that separate. So that didn't come along with this membership.
That's correct.
And I know Omaha has been a member of I think, for decades of the National League of Cities, I believe. So this isn't something new. We've been with them a long time. I wouldn't necessarily give them the credit for the ARPA or especially the bipartisan infrastructure bill, because I don't think Congressman Bacon or Senator Fisher voted for that bill because of anything that the National League of Cities did. So I really think they should be given the credit in Nebraska for what they did, and in many of our other congressional members. So I'm just saying that I as somebody that's been involved with the National League of Cities, I've been very disappointed. However, the one thing that I don't like to do is I don't like to quit because I don't like it. What I like to do is stay involved and try and affect the change, because I think that's what cities need and that's what we need to do in Washington. And what I would like to see is hopefully that I can continue
to try and work efforts so that they can be maybe more of a nonpartisan group, because I tend to find that they're not. And I think it even showed in the contract that we paid for that is very partisan. So I think, as Ms. Johnson said, where she often feels that maybe she is treated differently, you know, other people think that that you can be treated differently too, and sometimes that has to do with your politics and other than anything else, and being prejudged for that even. And I find that that was the theme I saw throughout what they've done, and especially in the training that I completed, the online training. So I can tell you that if it wasn't a requirement that we be a member of the National League of Cities right now, to be a member of the League of Municipalities for Nebraska, I'd probably vote no on this. But I'm going to take you at your word for it that we have to be a member of the National League of Cities to be a part of the League of Nebraska Municipalities. And I'm going to continue, I guess, instead of quitting, I'm going to continue to try and affect the change and do it on my own dime.
We need your support and appreciate your support. Can I briefly address your concern? And I wholeheartedly agree with your very first point. And to the partisanship part, I'll just say this. One of the things that they have advised us on, and we're very specific to be careful about, is to avoid that. And that's a best practice in this work also. It shouldn't be partisan at all. That can be a detractor to the work. And so we have taken that approach. We received their counsel to make sure that it is not partisan.
Well, no, let me be clear. I think the city employees and everybody that participated from the city, from our city, did fabulous. I'm telling you, it was the National League of Cities that was the partisan. So I think the way they structured it, well, they didn't walk their talk then. I think all the people in the city of Omaha, good people, from what I heard and saw for the most part, from the presentation and the implementation that you're planning, I loved it. I think you were able to do that despite the partisanship from the National League of Cities. So I mean that as a compliment to you, but I'm gonna criticize them where it's well deserved.
Thank you.
Mr. Harding.
Mr. President, a couple things. I mean, I know, I don't think I've ever subscribed to anything specific to NLC, but I do know we get general emails from them in our city email boxes on a regular occasion. I also know that, as you were stating earlier, I think, Keith, that you can go onto their website. You can actually sign up for newsletters for particular areas of interest, not just general. You can get the general information, but if you have a particular interest, there's probably a newsletter that you can sign up for through NLC on their website.
I believe so.
And I know Ms. Melton has taken the initiative herself to become involved with NLC, and I applaud her for that, because I too, my interaction with NLC, I don't find it to be very diverse politically. It is very partisan in my estimation, and I don't know that we're getting very objective insights or case studies or data or reports or surveys. I think they tend to be fairly skewed in my estimation. I'm really concerned. I was fully intending to vote no on this today, but I heard you say that you're pretty sure that we have to be a member of NLC to be a member of the Nebraska League of Municipalities, and I fully understand the importance of that membership. So I need to know definitively, is it a requirement of Nebraska League of Municipalities to be a member of NLC?
That's my understanding, and I guess I would be willing to get that definitively so that the council can be comfortable with that membership. That's my understanding.
I'm going to ask for, I'll make a motion to lay this over.
Second. Okay. And Councilmember, can I respond briefly to your initial
Sure.
comment?
Yeah.
I'll just say again, one of the things that, and I'll find that out. I'll get the confirmation on that. One of the things that they advised us on multiple occasions was that you know your community best. And so as they consulted with us and for us, they pulled from us the environment that is in Omaha and in the state as well. So inherent in that way, in that process, is making sure that we aren't overly partisan in either direction. And so while if the NLC seems to be partisan in a way, they were, at least the direct consultation we received said that won't get you very far in your work if you aren't mindful of that. So they make sure that they don't take a one-size-fit-all approach to how you develop your strategies. They say you know your community, and so they take real data that's not skewed or anything that is partisan. They take some data that we provide actually to help us devise our strategies and help us to do some analysis on what we're seeing up against what our stated values are. So we subscribe to the City of Omaha's mission. We don't everything that we've derived from our work together starts with who the city says it is, and that's where we start, and that's what they help us to do.
I appreciate your comments, but I think you're shortchanging really the employees of the City of Omaha, because I think the employees of the City of Omaha give more input to that than we get from the National League of Cities membership. So don't sell yourself short. I quite frankly, like I said, I don't think we need the membership. But if it is a requirement to be a member of the League of Municipalities of the state of Nebraska, that would change my vote. But don't sell yourself short. We're the employees of the City of Omaha. They're very talented people. There are other avenues where we can get information and data from other cities and make our own policies and decisions. So please don't give too much credit to NLC.
I'll confirm that, and I'd also echo how outstanding our employees are. Witnessed it firsthand throughout the process, and I agree, and I appreciate that.
Mr. Begley.
Thanks, Mr. President. Can I, Councilmember Harding, a question for you, if I may? You made a motion to lay this over pending an answer from Keith on whether or not the requirement for the League of Municipalities of Nebraska, correct?
I did.
Okay. Keith, can you do that with a couple text messages and a question for Councilmember Fesserson? Can we move on to another item and then come back to this today?
There's a motion and a second
I
on
understand
the
what the
floor.
motion is,
Yeah.
but is that possible?
That is possible. We would take up, unless there was a substitute motion, we'd take up the motion that's on the floor first, but then that could be also suggested if that motion fails.
Well,
if I withdraw the
second,
somebody else will second it.
Understood.
Hold on.
Question, Keith, question for you. Is that something you can get in a quick phone call or text message, or is that going to be an act of Congress to get the answer to that?
Key Station Mayor's Office, I can try to get that as soon as possible. I'll try.
Okay.
It shouldn't be too cumbersome, but I can try to do that right now.
Okay, thank you.
So there is a motion and a second to lay over for 1 week, right? I would support the scenario you're describing, Mr. Begley, but this is the first motion we would need to vote on and then see what the outcome of that is first. I would think it could be resolved with probably a quick phone call to Lynn Rex to get that answer within probably 2 minutes. I didn't want to do that while I was sitting here. So there's no further lights on the motion to delay 1 week, and second, I'll call a roll call on that.
Bagley.
No.
Harding.
Yes.
Hug. Johnson.
Yes.
Melton.
Yes.
Rowe. Mr. President.
Nope. Nope.
Hug.
No.
Motion passed 4-3.
So it's laid over for 1 week, and hopefully we can get the answer next week.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next item, please.
Item 45, a resolution to approve the bid in the total amount of $2,563,000 to Elkhorn West Construction, Inc. for the Lynch Park Phase 1 project located at 2120 Martha Street.
Public hearing and vote on number 45 is today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Mr. Begley.
45,
45,
right?
yeah.
Okay, thanks. Couple questions for, is Matt?
Yes.
Hi, Matt. So you and I had a great conversation this morning. I appreciate you coming down, and I got a nice big map of the phases of this. I couldn't help but to think of a great member of our community, John Stella, that passed away this week, that grew up in St. Anne's right there off of Pierce Street, just in the north of Lynch. And you had mentioned, I think, has it been about 10 years that we've been working to try to get some beautification done to this park here?
Matt Kalsevich, Parks and Rec Director. Yes, that's correct. Some planning for this location in particular goes back about a decade. And so an overlap with ARPA funding, and so an ARPA funded related project. And because it had already made the progress it did in some of the visioning, it was a perfect fit to cross over with a lot of the goals of the ARPA initiative and program.
And you had mentioned beautification to the baseball field in our conversation, correct?
That's correct. The phase one includes the baseball field. There's a smaller baseball field that's being converted more to a more versatile rectangle soccer type space. Hard surface improvements as part of that phase one. So really the existing infrastructure of the park, road, parking lot, a half basketball court, futsal court, and skate area, the skate park that exists there being improved in a separate bid that will be coming before the council at a later time. But this will allow us to really activate all our processes so we can start significant work on this phase in the spring of '24.
Great answer, and I would have made a terrible attorney because I was going to ask you some of those questions you already answered for me there. So I appreciate that. In phase two to the north there, and there's also going to be a little sidewalk around a lot of this area, correct?
That's correct. In a lot of our park visioning, we want to have that kind of function so that people can walk the perimeter of the park while people are, or perhaps kids and youth are enjoying the amenities in the inner portion. So that's a growing popular feature, and that's designed as part of the full function of the two-phase project of the park. Again, phase one will have that infrastructure. When we're able to get to phase two, that will be an expansion of that to include everything that's part of the footprint of the entire facility. But phase one here is really focusing on the existing infrastructure and reactivating what has been at Lynch before we delve into what will be the future project in phase two.
I appreciate that. And I mentioned John Stella, who passed away. He was a great pillar in Councilmember Hugg's district and mine, where he grew up off of Pierce Street, 22nd. He's dear to my heart, not only for the baseball gifts. I call him like a silent giant, where he touched the lives of a bunch of kids. And I know he would have played baseball at this park as a kid, and certainly as he grew in his later years and stuck with baseball. So I know John's up there smiling down, seeing that we're voting on this today, and the beautification of that park and the lives of kids in the neighborhoods. And I think you mentioned maybe Central and Omaha South might look at playing some games there. And I played back here in the 80s, and they knocked quite a few balls out of the park when I was pitching, so I didn't miss my call in there. But I'll appreciate your updates on this going forward. And I know the neighborhood down in Lynch Park and Dolman and everybody in Omaha, for that matter, will appreciate the steps we're taking here to beautify that park. Thanks, Matt.
We're excited to get things started. Thank you for your
And I'll
support.
make a motion to approve this, Mr. President. Thanks.
A motion, a second to approve. I'll just add, I think it is a great project too, and something that I know the city's been trying to do for years and years, and it's been very challenging there, so it's great to see it move forward. I know a couple of us asked for the diagrams around it, and I think that point's been made before. Just when we have a major appropriation, especially around our ARPA parks projects, that we do receive a little bit more information about them, with the attachment or at our meeting, so folks can see what's happening, because it is really impressive. And when you just see the appropriation on paper, it isn't quite the wow factor as when you see the layout and what it's going to do. So I just encourage you to do that in the future with the rest of these as well. All right, there's a motion and a second to approve. Roll call.
Bagley. Harding. Hug. Johnson. Melton.
Yes.
Rowe. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0. Item 46, an ordinance to amend Section 23-177 of the Omaha Municipal Code concerning employment classifications by changing the salary range of human relations representative to.
Public hearing on number 46 is today. Proponents, please.
Good afternoon, Deb Sander from City Human Resources, here to answer any questions.
Thank you.
Chelsea Ship, also from Human Resources, also here to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any other proponents today? Any opponents? Public hearing's closed. Mr. Begley.
Thanks, Mr. President. Deb, a couple questions, please. Good evening. How you doing? Is this, my understanding, this is a vacant position, is that correct?
That is correct.
How long has it been vacant for?
A little over a year.
Okay. And as I read this ordinance, it's, you're lowering the pay of it, the range from 71 on the low side to 102 on the top to a range of 66.3 to 88. And so in looking into this, my understanding is it was more of a supervisory position, and now that's not going to be the case, is the reason you're lowering. Is that, did I read that and discuss that correctly?
Yes, sir, that is correct.
Okay. And is this a bargaining unit represented position?
It's in the Syntec group.
Okay. Did you have discussions with that group when this came forward?
Yes, sir, we do. Anytime that we change a class specification, either adding or removing duties and responsibilities, rewriting that classification, and especially with the salary change, we always involve the union.
That's music to my ears, and I'm assuming that's a mandatory subject to bargaining if you're changing terms and conditions.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and I know, I'm not saying the city does this, I'm really glad that you guys had that outreach. I think the city's above board on that. There's some groups that, even if it's a mandatory subject to bargaining, it sits vacant for a year or two, and then it gets rebranded, and then it gets filled, and the bargaining unit duties maybe go away, but I'm really happy to hear, and I got great trust in you and your leadership that the conversations do take place. And I'm assuming Semtech was in agreement with that, so.
Yes, sir. They were also present at the Personnel Board when the Personnel Board approved this.
Great. Okay. Thanks, Deb. That's all I got. Thanks.
Thank you. There's no further lights. Madam Clerk.
Non-action items, items 47 through 89, do not require public hearing or city council consideration at this meeting, but will be placed on a future agenda for public hearing and or vote. The reason for non-action is noted after the item on the agenda, as well as the date the item is expected to appear on the agenda for consideration.
Is there a motion to adjourn? Motion to adjourn. Roll call.
Bagley. Harding. Hug. Johnson. Melton. Rowe. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0. Meeting is adjourned at 5:11.